Good morning, my dear student. Myself, Professor Digambar Wankhede. Today, we will see another new poem, and the name of the poem is A Prayer for My Daughter by W. Wheat. W. Wheat was Irish poet. He was a modern poet. He was an Irish poet and one of the foremost figures of the 20th century literature. He was an Irish and British literary movement's poet. He was awarded Nobel Prize for Literature in 1923. His unrequited and lifelong love for Mudgone formed the subject of many of his intense and striking poems. W. Beat loved Mudgone beloved, but it was unrequited love for him. A Prayer for My Daughter, it is one of the greatest poem by W. Beat. In this poem, poet portrays how a father who has been blessed with a daughter. Poet expresses wishes for his daughter, prays for the future happiness and welfare of her. The poet hopes that instead of growing up to be a very beautiful woman, his daughter should be blessed with the attributes of virtuous and great soul. She should be well mannered and full of humility rather than being strongly opinionated. To avoid intellectual destination because that can drown her in misery. Intellectual destination can drown her in misery. So she wants to avoid it. A prayer for daughter. In this poem, poet wishes for his daughter's wellness. Poem is symbolic. Poem is philosophical. Once more the storm is howling, and half hid under this cradle, hood and coverlid, my child slips on, there is no obstacle, but Gregory's wood and one bare hill, whereby the hay, stack and roof leveling wind, bread on the Atlantic can be stayed, and for an hour I have walked and prayed. Because of the great gloom that is in my mind, I is used for poet. I have walked and prayed for this young child an hour and heard the sea wind screams upon the tower and under the arches of bridge and scream in the elms above the flooded stream, imagining an excited reverie that the futures had come, dancing to a frenetic drum out of the murderous innocence of the sea. May she be granted beauty and yet not beauty to make a stranger's eye distraught or hers before looking glass, for such being made beautiful overmuch. Consider beauty a sufficient end, lose natural kindness and maybe the heart reveling intimacy that chooses right and never find a friend. Helen, being chosen, found life flat and dull, and latter had much trouble from a fool. While that great queen, Helen, that rose out of the spray, being fatherless, could have her way, yet choose a bandy-legged smith for man, and certain that fine woman eat a crazy salad with their meat, whereby the horn of plenty is undone. Whereby the horn of plenty is undone, undone. In the courtesy I would have her cheaply learn, hearts are not had as a gift, but hearts are earned. Hearts are earned by those that are not entirely beautiful, yet many that have played the fool. For beauty's vessel hath charm made wise, and many a poor man that has roved, love and thought himself below from a glad kindness, cannot take his eyes. May she be a flourishing hidden tree, that all her thoughts may like the need be, and have no business but dispensing round their magnanimities of sound, nor but in merriment begin a chase, nor but in merriment a quarrel. O may she live like some green laurel, rooted in one dear perpetual place. My mind, because the minds that I have loved, the sort of beauty that I have approved, prosper but little, has dried up a plate. It knows that to be choked with late, that choke with hate, may well be of all evil chances chief, if there is no hatred in a mind, assault and battery of the wind can never tear the linnet from the lip. An intellectual hatred is the worst. So let her think opinions are occurs. Have I not seen the loveliest woman born out of the mouth of plenty's horn, because of her opinionated mind, barter that horn and every good, by quite nature's understood, for an old bellows full of angry wind, considering that all hatred driven hence, the soul recovers radical innocence and learns that it is self-delighting, self-appraising, self-frighting, and that its own sweet will is heaven's will. She can thus every face shall scowl and every windy quarter howl, or ever or every bellows burst be happy still, and may her bridegroom bring her to a house where all's accustomed ceremonies for arrogance and hatred are the wares peddled in the thoroughfares. How but in custom and in ceremony are innocence and beauty born. Ceremony is named for the rich home and custom for the spreading laurel tree. In this poem, W.B.T. is wishing for his daughter. A furious storm born on the Atlantic Ocean is sweeping the Irish country. There is an hardly obstacle in the way of the storm to diminish its intensity. Only the wood around Lady Gregory's estate and one hill on which there is no growth of suburbs or trees serves as some kind of obstacle in its way. The storm is furious that it brings haystacks and ropes down to the ground. The poet is in a state of excited reverie. In other words, poet is lost in his thought. But his thoughts are of a kind to excite or agitate him. The intensity of the storm makes him think that the years of the futures have come out of the destructive innocence of the Atlantic Ocean in response to the well beating of drum. The beating of the drum was called to members of a tribe to come quickly from wherever they were at the moment and get ready for battle. Here it seems to the poet, the future years have come in response to the beating of some drum. This is the reference poet has taken. Dancing to a pronounced drum convey the wilderness and fierceness of the storm that is howling. The sea is destructive, murderous, and also innocent. The sea is innocent because it has no personal will against anyone, and it is a destructive force which has given reason to the storm. The sea has given reason to the storm. In this poem, poet wishes his daughter should grow into a beautiful woman. Anne it. The name of the poet's daughter was Anne it, A-N-N-E. Why? However, poet does not want that his daughter should be so beautiful as to become a cause of heartache. His daughter should not be beautiful so as to become a cause of heartache or emotional torment to some stranger by making him fall in love with her. Poet does not want his daughter should be so beautiful that while looking at herself in the mirror, she should get extravagant ideas of her physical charms and should thus begin to think her beauty to be sufficient in itself. If she is so beautiful as to become very proud of her beauty, she will lose her natural kindness and emotional warmth. Helen was a beautiful woman. Helen was an extraordinarily beautiful woman, but her elopement with Paris brought Trojan War, and Trojan War caused destruction and bloodshed between Greeks and Trojan. Thus, Helen's beauty proved to a curse to the others. Poet wishes his daughter should be not beautiful like that Helen. That great queen refers to Aphrodite, goddess of beauty and love. She is to believe to have merged from sea's foam, having had no father. Aphrodite had no father. So she knew no disciple and she merely led by her whims. Because of her indiscipline, she chose a husband who was most unsuited for her. She got married to the lame goldsmith. Thus her beauty, she was unhappy with her husband and developed an illicit love affair with another god. The horn of plenty is an ancient mythology. The horn of God represents overflowing with flowers, fruits and corn. Thus it expresses plenty and prosperity. Poet feels surely that lovely women eat crazy salad with their food, as a result of which they develop some crazy tendency so as to wreck their own lives. Poet would like his daughter to learn courteous manner. Women who are not extraordinarily beautiful will not attract true lovers if they don't possess genuine courteous and good manners. The heart of man have to be owned by courtesy and affection. Their hearts will not come as a gift to women who do not possess exceptional beauty. The poet takes own references as beautiful Mudgon. Poet loves Mudgon, but Mudgon never. Poet behaved like a fool and fell in love with Mudgon because of her beauty. Like a fool, he thought that she too loved him. Subsequently, he became disillusioned and realized that his passion for Mudgon was a sheer waste of time. Thus he married another woman, George Liz, for he always received a glad kindness from her. George Liz. Therefore, poet would like his daughter to grow like a flourishing tree, hidden from public gaze. He would like her thoughts to be cheerful like the songs of bird. Poet expects. He would like her thoughts not to create any friction or conflict among others, but to contribute to a large heartedness and generosity in the world. Her thoughts. He would like her not to get involved in any competitive struggle for the sake of fun. Poet wishes her to live like a green laurel tree, rooted permanently in one dear spot. Poet minds knows that to be choked with hate will be chief of all evil chances. Poet admires his beloved, but she caused great depression of spirit, and she is now of the view that public is not to be rely upon or to be trusted. If a man has no hatred in his mind for anyone, no harm can come to him from the storms of life. The kind of intellectual hatred Morgan had is the worst form of hatred. The poet like his daughter not to have strong opinions of an intellectual kind because such opinions lead to suffering and happiness. Poet gives some example of loveliest woman Madgon who come from aristocratic family but whose views were strong intellectual opponents made wind back of her, made destruction of her under the influence of her strong political opinions. She has sacrificed her prosperity and intellectual quality of birth and breeding in order to become an angry and propagandist. If a human being drives out of a hatred from his mind, his soul will recover its original. If we remove hatred of our mind, our soul will recover its original basic innocence. Such a human being will learn that his soul has in itself the seeds of all joy and joy that one meets in life. The will of such a soul is God's own will. Poet's daughter can, by reading her and all hatred, it lead a happy life no matter what the attitude of people towards her might be and what hostile opinions they might express. Finally, the poet wants his daughter to be married to a man who belongs to a family that believes in the values of custom and ceremony. Because custom and ceremony are opposed to arrogance and hatred, custom and ceremony gives birth to innocence and beauty. So